As you can see, we really don't have enough personnel, so some of the participants are so recruited to help with the organization and bring in the last straggler. Now, Professor Klaus Beckmann, the president of the Helmut Schmidt University in so as you may have learned, the background of this is that strategy or the core subjects of military science and history will at some point be raised to a curriculum for communicating a basic understanding of military science in connection with other tertiary institutions of military pedagogics. This is why I've written a letter to all of the reputable academies in the German-speaking countries, the Staff Academy, representatives of the Helmut Schmidt University in Berlin, representatives of the ETA Zurich, and we also have like to have representatives of the Bundeswehr Academy in Munich. Professor Bickel couldn't make it, but all these educational facilities that could be involved should be brought to the table. This is why I'm particularly grateful that Professor Beckmann has followed our appeal and is now giving this presentation. Thank you very much. This is my CV that I'm normally using to run for professorship. Anyway, dear generals and admirals, ladies, gentlemen, I'm very pleased to have the privilege of speaking in the alma mater of the Austrian military science on this subject of will and strategy. So strategy and will. So apparently I've clicked, but I guess you have to try to move forward. The next slide. Okay. The speaker is too far away from the microphone. Please give the speaker a microphone, ask him to move closer to the other microphone. He's moving freely through the room, we can't really hear him. It's just like in a parking garage. Very bad sound quality, so can't work like that. Please hand the speaker a microphone. Please hand the speaker a microphone. One of the roving microphones will do. We can't hear him when he's walking through the room. Okay. Sorry, so I can't really move around much. Good to see you again. Thank you. Thank you for using the microphone. So, this basic idea now will take us to a new situation in which the will of the two opponents are facing each other. So if the attacker prevails, that's of course bad for the defense. If the defense prevails, it is a maximum disaster for the attacker. So the sum total was constant. We call this a zero-sum game. So much by way of introduction. So that basically is the basic idea of it. It's a zero-sum game. I'm now going to argue that this basic idea is all good and well, but it's neither scientific nor in terms of strategic thinking does it fit our times. But I'm not going to do any Clausewitz bashing. because I will tell you that Clausewitz even recognized this himself. So that's the subject of my presentation, and time permitting, at the end I will try to explain to you how we deal with that at the level of scientific pursuit. So this is my presentation. We'll start with strategy and will from the game theory perspective. We're almost done with that. Then I will show you what these games can be used for. You can use them in order to categorize strategic situations. So then I will show you the limits of how far we can go with that, and then I will talk about potential research studies, and I will also refer to a book that will be published at the end of this meeting. So let me start again with a strategy will from the game theory perspective, and this is the previous argument, the starting point, that's Clausewitz's idea of the absolute war. So it's a somewhat obsolete term, but this is the ideal type of war, according to Clausewitz. But even Clausewitz knew that there's not only the ideal type of war, but also the normal type of war. So he recognizes different forms of war that do not correspond to the ideal type of war. For example, if there's more than two parties, if diplomacy is to play a big role. So all of these things had already been identified by Clausewitz. So even in the original theory, it was clear that we're not always dealing with the absolute war, but there are also other varieties of war, derivatives, where, of course, the game will also change accordingly. Takes me to the question of a possible taxonomy. So we are going to try to address these different strategic situations with the help of this little chart that you will have seen previously and that I hope you also understand. So this is the taxonomy we are talking about. So this is zero-sum games. Just to remind you, that's what we have seen previously, where the interests of the two opponents are perfectly in opposition. Now there's the coordination games. These are incredibly boring because they are the interests of the two stakeholders are congruent. So there's no problem with strategic nature because the players or the stakeholders are going to find a mutually agreeable solution. And then there's the mixed motive games that Thomas Schelling worked out in the 1960s. These are games where there's a coordinating interests and a conflicting interests, and the two are combined or superimposed. And here are typical examples. Some games where all the equilibriums are inefficient. Well, what is an equilibrium? That's a situation that you no longer want to move away from once it has been achieved. So, if this goes up, then it gets a 1 instead of 2. And if it goes left, it gets a 1 instead of a 2. So they're not going to do that. So this field is in balance, it's in equilibrium. Now let's take a look at the top. If you go right, you get a 4 instead of a 3 to do this. So the upper left is not in balance, even though the upper left is better for both players than the lower right. That's the prisoner's dilemma. But there's one category of games where all the balances or equilibria that are reached are inefficient. And there's, for example, a type of game like chicken where all the balances are efficient, but there are other efficient results. Chicken is the famous Francis Longus game. It's called Pricus Longus, to make sure that you get the right translation. So the Pricus Longus game where there's a conflictual interest, and there's also an interest in not losing face and preserving your self-esteem. And there's also a category of games where all these equilibria are better than all other results. It's the famous volunteer's dilemma. So somebody needs to call the doctor in order to help a patient lying on the side of the road. The question is, who will call the physician? Only one person should call the doctor, otherwise too many resources are used. So who will be going to Mali, to Afghanistan, and whatnot? So these are mixed motive situations because the interests of conflict and cooperation are superimposed. And if you use this taxonomy, you could say it's the same but just shown differently. So there are zero-sum games, and you move to the coordinating games, and the more further right we move, the less dramatic the strategy situation is. So this is a quick rundown of gaming theory. You can also read a book on that. You need a master's seminar to study that, but that was the core and a quick rundown. So now I'd like to criticize this core of gaming theory. Now the first point of criticism is even in the war in the fatherland, and here you see this strategic breakdown for the different levels of perspective that you can take on such a war. The zero-sum game only happens at the level of a battle. That's something that is missing. I also attended an officers' academy, but what we learned at this academy is that, let's say, we have Battalion 462, that where the tank division works against the infantry division, then either our job is fulfilled or that of the Red Commander. So that's a zero-sum game. But if you go one level up, at the operational level or at the strategic level, where other things come to bear, this is often no longer the case. Now let me give you one example. At the operation level. So build a golden bridge to your opponent. Where does this come from? At the technical level, it's very simple. You are the commander of a unit, and you can either encircle the insurgents or leave them a breach that they can escape through. And the insurgents can either escalate the activities or leave. So the best situation for you as the commander of the deployed unit is if you just encircle them and don't do anything, because then you can arrest them all. The worst situation if you leave a breach and they still escalate, and so on and so forth. So we all know about the problem of this not leaving a gap, such as the Hamburg Kessel example. That's where the university is. So the police actually encircled the insurgents, and this led to an escalation, and they can no longer control the situation in the analysis. So it is in both parties' interest that this doesn't happen, and this is why it makes sense for the leader of the troops to build a golden bridge to the opponent. And if you look at this game, you will see that this is the prisoner's dilemma. So thus, it is clear that even in antiquity, we are dealing with situations where zero-sum games, so the clash of will against will, is not adequately reflected by strategy. So there's still an element of cooperation. So maybe you can't even see this when the munition is flying.
Now you may have gained the impression that you'll have to go to university and study game theory. Helmut Schmidt University offers courses. My colleague Mr. Bayer mentioned the EMPHIS course already. So let's all go and learn game theory, and once we know all that, we'll be the ideal strategists, and we will just put the recipe into practice on the battlefield. So we find a situation, we just have to identify it, and then we know what to do. Of course, that's quite ridiculous, but you have to explain why this can't be the solution. Now, game theory is making a forecast of balances. The Nash equilibrium, I had shown that before, is what a game theorist will tell you that will happen. Only usually it's not going to go that way, because an equilibrium is something no one would depart from once it has been reached. So an equilibrium, a balance, a feature which has to have a durable and stable situation. If it weren't, it wouldn't be stable, it wouldn't be an equilibrium. It's a single shot. If I have one single situation, I cannot use ideas of equilibrium or balance, because they only can arrive after you repeat the situation several times. And so if your unit tells the commander, well, our enemies usually come from the left side, so that's the strategy we have to apply, maybe that's not quite the right solution. In addition, there's a huge problem we have with scalability of game theory. I just showed you some small static situations with 2 moves and 2 actors. Now, if I add another few actors and strategic possibilities, the whole thing is getting more confusing. And if I make it dynamic, the situation is even worse. So scalability is not really working for game theory. If I look at the larger number of actors or dynamic situations, in the upper right corner you see the easiest game form, which can strategically explain the breakout of a war. It's been published back in 2014, rather recently, and it's 3 pages of pure mathematics to explain that a war can break out in the situation which is explained here. We have a very simple situation, just 1 maneuver, 2 actors and 2 potential forces. If this is put or applied to a realistic situation, you will see that it's not going to work like that. And now let me come back to the individual case. It's really not politically correct. It's about a man who wants to win the charms of a woman, collects all kinds of advice, and then in the end he says, every advice was perfectly correct, but not for the woman I was trying to win. So it's important to know your enemy. It's important to know the place and the time you're talking about in order to plan your strategy. And these are the 2 central quotes you will find in German military literature, and they've been around for 150 years. First of all, Clausewitz, in theory, it's not about finding specific ways of application. Of course, you should talk about specific application. We don't want to sit in an ivory tower. But science will not give you a cookbook and a specific recipe. You need to be able to really judge the situation, and Malthus has the name about the relation between war and science. War is an art, and many sciences serve this art, and you can read on for yourself what he says, and that's how you should interpret my contribution too. Now, give me another 5 minutes to explain just briefly how we try to solve this problem from a scientific point of view. First of all, we want to provide advice, at least in our Institute for Defense and Studies, and we need to publish, at least some of us need to. And for that we need scientific innovation, and to try and show what we do about this. This is what we're trying to achieve. The difficulties I just described are based on the economic rationality supposition, the so-called micro-foundation, as it is called. Every decision in every point and time needs to be deducted from an optimization calculation. And the problem here is that not even theoretic mathematics will be able to provide the necessary proof. It applies to differential games, for example. So this rationality assumption is not used entirely, at least. We do believe that intelligent people will still use or try to come to intelligent conclusions, and we apply a limited rationality model and will not use a micro-founded formulation, but another type of formulation. It's the famous Lanchester or Bowling-Richardson tradition. And of course we want empirical proof of this, and either by using historic science or by using simulation and war gaming, or by using econometric instruments. So in the 21st century you cannot just put up theories without reviewing them and testing them. This is the result of one of our simulations. Two parties at war with each other, blue against red. On the left side you can see what happens over time if blue has a higher readiness, so a larger amount of their armed forces have been mobilized, they have a better preparation, and red has a higher amount of resources and a higher productivity of their own economy. Blue will have initial successes, and then blue will lose the war, and at the end of the war the standard of life in red is increasing again, while they are still at war. General Yamamoto was asked once what would happen if we attack Pearl Harbor, and he said, "I'll be running. There will be a stalemate the second year, and I'm very uncertain after that." That's what he said, and this is the picture you need for that, and it's what happened. So it's an example of a simulation. This is an example of a war game we enacted with our students, and for reasons of tradition, which plays a role in Germany, we let Germany lose the French-German war, and Napoleon then crossed the canal, and he was successful in our game, and then the land operations in England were reenacted. You can see the French, the blue ones win the English at the English headquarters. This is the result of a free interaction of people in which comply with certain rules of the game, so human input to this simulation. And then another thing we tried, see the war Ethiopia against Eritrea. It's a beautiful war because it was fought between two parties only with a relatively low international influence. It was a classical mechanical war, so late Soviet Union style, with the respective equipment, and there was a good durability. We plotted Goldstein scores, which are based on activities that are being measured in GDate, Big Data database. Every action is rated -10 if it is very mean against the opponent, and +10 if it is a very friendly action. And this is what we did, and you can see that before the war started, the daily Goldstein scores are quite flat. Then you have the war, and then you have the situation after the war. You can see the operations during war, these spikes. You can see when there were operations. You can see immediately the monsoon times, because everything's at a standstill during those times. And it actually worked quite well, because the famous scenario crisis in East Eurasia is just the same as this situation. These were just a few attempts to show you what we do in order to close the gap. Of course, it was too complicated for you, because I just opened the box for a moment to show you what we have in it. The important thing is what you can see in this slide here. Strategic thinking is not just trying to make one's own will prevail, but in most cases there is also a certain tendency to cooperation. The non-cooperative game theory is one possibility to show this. Its big advantage is that taxonomies of situations can be represented which can then be used as a sort of prototype to illustrate certain forms of conflicts, but game theory is not a panacea which can solve all problems, because first of all it isn't scalable, and secondly it's based on the idea of an equilibrium, of a balance, which does not consider the individual case, and thirdly because certain rationality assumptions are difficult to come to terms with on the basis of mathematics. And so at the GIDS we found another solution by either using war games or simulations, or by using models in which we renounce complete rationality or mathematic representation of rationality. What we do need, however, is an empirical review of the whole situation. And this is the end of my presentation. I'm happy to answer your questions. General, let me report that my task has been completed.
Vortrag recht herzlich bedanken.
Thank you, Professor, for your speech. It's an exciting speech we just heard. And I'm delighted to see that it really fit perfectly to our conference topic. Let me just briefly make a few comments before I open for questions. While we're talking about game theory, I was preparing my question about game theory. I was about to criticize it, and then you did it yourself, so no need for me to do that. The Goldstein theory is also found in the Thucydides trap. Thucydides apparently said that you shouldn't be afraid of the rising new leader, because this would lead to a terrible war. In truth, Thucydides said you cannot avoid war between two leaders. But there is one rule I can tell you: if you see that there's this balance of power and that something is of particular importance to your opponent, don't attack the particular thing and then trigger terrible consequences. That's the golden bridge of considering things that do not necessarily lead to an advantage, but just cause a major irritation to the opponent. Then the scenario of curves. Let me quote Clausewitz here again, who says that it's not about the absolute nature of preparedness. Clausewitz was a fan of Leibniz and knew his culmination theory, and it's actually about the situation where you reach the peak. So if you look at productivity, readiness, and these kind of things, it's not a question what peak you can reach, but if the opponent is mitigating them, how fast can I get back to the necessary level? So half the way up to the peak, I may be able that I will never reach the necessary level, and I can stop the war, and I can realize the point of no return, so to speak. So this was a door opener, which would actually allow us to just go on learning and studying these things. Now let me just react to this briefly. You said that the opponent isn't rational if you irritate them with a thing that's very important to them, something which just has emotional importance but no real importance. In that case, thing may just be the gravitational center, but in wars or in discussions with other universities even, the important thing to me is always the gravitational center. And if that's the thing we're talking about, then it has to be attacked. And then if we're drawing curves, at school we were always given the complete course information about the overall situation. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is something we won't have in real life. We will have local information. So I know what happens if I make a little change to my decision, but I don't know what happens if I make a major leap. And so it's very difficult to find this culmination point. And the people playing in this game had some sort of a rational myopia, so they were limited in their view. I cannot show you the results now, but that's a totally different point of view than usual discussion about graphs or curves. Because if you discuss dynamic graphs, it's a clear mathematical development, and I, for myself, don't have the mathematical knowledge to really do all these calculations. Just as a side. But it's a very interesting discussion. That's something we should probably discuss over lunch. Let us now turn to questions from the audience.
Wer traut sich, ob Rittersmann oder Knapp? Nichts davon ist fertig. Das ist das Schöne.
Who wants to dare ask a question? Nothing's ready, nothing's finished, really. That's the beauty about strategy. So everything's open to be questioned. Well, no questions. Professor, your speech was so exciting that the audience needs some time of reaction before they can even think of any questions. So let me thank you and wish everyone a pleasant lunch break, which will be a bit longer than expected.